Aloha, and welcome to the Badass Warrior Women of the Bible. Today's story is about Rahab, the honorable prostitute. We can learn discernment and courage from her. So let's get started. The story we were going to read today takes place in Joshua chapters 2 through 6. You've got to read the rest of the story, though, and read 3 through 6. You can go to the website, themodernwomenslife.com, and go through the study of the courage and discernment questions. You can also go to our website for weekly updates, or just go to the site and click on the Badass Women of on the menu tab on the website and enjoy all the stories. So let's talk about Rahab. She's a prostitute with a plan. She was a Canaanite, which made her an enemy to the Israelites. She lived in the town of Jericho, which was the next town that was about to be slaughtered. She ran a brothel using her abilities and skills to the best of her ability. But in the town, she heard a lot of the gossip, and she heard the things that were going on around the city. She'd heard about the miracles of God, of what God was doing with the Israelites. So some of the backstory is that Joshua and the Israelites wandered for 40 years. They had followed a pillar of smoke and fire. They had defeated 2 kings and their kingdoms, and they had crossed a river on dry ground. Did you hear what I said? They crossed a river on dry ground. God parted the waters so that they could cross across there. They were camped on the east side of the Jordan. Now, Joshua, determined to destroy the town of Jericho, sent 2 spies to go check out to see if there was a big resistance or what they were going to find once they entered into the town. The town was quaking in their boots because they had heard what had happened. They knew the power was with this army. And they were scared to death of what was about to happen. Now, these valiant spies crossed over, and the first place they headed was the brothel where Rahab was. The king in Jericho got word of the spies and headed straight for Rahab's place. In fact, he sent soldiers to find and to kill them. Now, Rahab, knowing that what the king was about to do, took the spies up onto her roof, and she covered them up with long stalks of flax. The soldiers came in, they didn't find the spies, left her establishment. Then Rahab began the negotiations with the spies. She said point blank, I know that God's with you, that you have been honored by him, and I know that you're about to slaughter this town. If I agree to help you escape unharmed, I want you to protect my family. And they began to negotiate back and forth. They agreed that if she helped them escape, and she hung a red cord out the window so that they could identify her home. She lived on the outer wall, so when she hung the cord on the outside of the window, from the outside of the castle walls, you could tell which room was Rahab's. She gathered her family within the house, and she kept her word. They said that if she'd do all of these things and not give them away, they would spare her and her family and all that they possessed. But if she broke her word, all deals were off, and she was going to be slaughtered with the rest of the town. So Rahab kept her word. She allowed the men to climb down the castle walls. She told them, look, the army has gone to the right side into the forest. You go up into the hills, and then after 3 days you can go ahead and go back across the Jordan when the king's army returns. And that's exactly what happened. As the soldiers went out looking for them, they came back in 3 days, and the spies were able to get away safely. She gathered her family together, she hung the red cord out the window, and she saved her family. When the soldiers destroyed Jericho, anyone inside Rahab's home was spared. She stared down the face of danger, kept her cool, and negotiated her survival. You know, it takes courage and discernment to use your own superpowers like that and to be aware of the big picture enough to be able to see down the road what was going on. So what can we learn from Rahab? That family matters. She went to bat for her family at the risk of death. When was the last time we went to bat for our family? We don't typically aren't going to die for our family, but we tend to get caught up in little piddly things that don't matter in the big picture. Maybe we need to rethink some of the things that we're doing in our family so that we have a big picture like Rahab did. She used her negotiating skills wisely. So I just wonder, how well do we negotiate? Sometimes we can have teenagers in our home and those negotiations can be futile or long and trying, but we need to stay in the war. God can turn bad into good. After a brothel life, surviving a war, and saving her family, God blessed her with a son. In fact, it was Boaz, a son that was highly respected. If you read the story of Ruth on our site, you'll discover how valuable Boaz was. So what impossible situation do you see yourself in that you're underestimating God and his power to turn into a blessing? Rahab gathered from the town gossip that Jacob's God was the real thing. Do we know without a doubt that God is the real thing? Where are you getting your information from? And like Rahab, are you using it wisely? So why include Rahab in the Bible? I always wonder about this when I study about prostitutes and seeming women in the Bible. Why are their stories told? Well, her story, I believe, shows us that anyone who believes can be saved. She made a profession of faith and was included in the lineage of Christ. She earned her place by observing, by hearing things, discerning the truth, and professing her beliefs. She knew when to hold her tongue, whose side the enemy fell on, and how to pick a winning team. Wisdom and discernment won her life and grace. I admire Rahab using the skills that she had, and then the discernment and the wisdom. And the courage it took to say, hey, look, I'll help you escape, if you save my family. So I hope you enjoy the Badass Warrior Woman series. I'm Pam Vincent from the Modern Woman's Life magazine and believe that every woman has a warrior within. Our hope is to equip everyone to find the strength to be all they are intended to be. Be sure to sign up for our weekly newsletter to get these strategies in your email. And just a reminder, warrior women aren't always perfect, but are always engaged in the battle. Let's win this battle. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Aloha!